Making love constantly, that's why my eyes are a shade blood burgundy. The way that we kiss isn't like any other way that I be kissing when I'm kissing what I miss. Won't you listen? Brown sugar, babe. I guess high off your love, I don't know how to feel.
I gotta look up, see if we built that too. We are at the Smithsonian African American Culture Museum. There's more. No, it's right there. So National Museum of African American History and Culture. First time. I didn't say why. So we wanted to come to this one before, you know, the administration gets rid of some very important information of our culture. So since we've never been, we wanted to go and see what we can learn and what we can archive, right?
Exactly.
All right, let's do it. Need to zoom out. What's he doing there? I'm just kidding. Frederick D. If you hear my son making spit bubbles, no, you don't. So I wanted to discuss what slavery was. What was slavery in the 1400s? So slavery was a temporary status. Everyone had slaves, and it was not based on race. Race was a social construct made a little later on when slavery through the transatlantic slave trade started to pick up. So things that were traded were gold, salt, and spices, and occasionally slaves. And in Africa, they didn't view themselves as Africans. That was, of course, put on them as, you know, part of the whole race thing. In the continent, they had many different nations, many different states, just like how now Africa is not a country, it is a continent. There are countries in Africa. Clock it. Yeah. So basically, there was just like everyone was doing their own thing. So there were slaves everywhere. This section is explaining how Europe began the transatlantic slave trade. The switch from trading gold and other textiles and other items to stealing and going into heavy slave trade was the Western Atlantic looking to colonize more fertile lands. And one of the main culprit for fertilizing these lands and colonization was to cultivate sugar. It was one of the main drivers of the transatlantic slave trade. The demand for profit and power came with human cost, of course. And at the heart of that cost were African women, men, and children. Look how packed these boats were. And I know this isn't even all of it. There was people stacked on top of each other. They had no room to move. People would die suffocated because there was just no room. There was nowhere to breathe. They would be urinating with each other, throwing up. People would get sick. And some people would even be beside other dead people because there's just no room.
Another that was ready to sail from Cape Coast. When we were put into the ship, we were all drove into our homes. We found ourselves at last taken away. Death was more preferable than life. And a plan was concerted amongst us that we might burn and blow up the ship and to perish altogether in the flames.
Human nature.
These shackles were used on small enslaved African children. Children were especially vulnerable to death and disease during long weeks of the Middle Passage. These are the shackles. This is just a little fun fact, but all the couples are in here. All the women are reading super fast and like zooming through the exhibition, while their men are like slowly just kind of standing and reading because they read slower than us. I don't know if that's all men, but I think more women are used to reading fast. So it's just kind of funny seeing everybody's partner just kind of linger longer than the women.
America, from Dutch New Amsterdam to the British colonies, as well as in French Louisiana and Spanish Florida. With the reliance on enslaved populations, new laws defined who was enslaved and who was free. By 1750, the system of slavery was racialized and had become more uniform. The law based slavery on African descent and made it hereditary and lifelong. This separated indentured Europeans and enslaved Africans. It created whiteness, and Africans became black in colonial North America.
As we know, slavery was real big in the South, but it was also really big in the North. So by 1664, New York City had more enslaved residents than any other city in North America. They were mostly dependent as domestic servants and laborers, and it was very easy for Africans to cross culture with Native Americans who were also slaves and indentured servants. Communities were built up north. It was much easier for the Black people to kind of band together up north because of their proximity. Everything was close to than it was in the South because, you know, the South had all that land. They were always just further away from each other. This section is about the Chesapeake region specifically, just because that's where I am currently in Virginia. Virginia got all kinds of cotton fields, y'all. I see them all the time. But yeah, the Chesapeake region had a good amount of enslaved Africans, European indentured servants, and Native American servants. And they all worked together and they cultivated tobacco. Tobacco was the big plant down here. And of course, cotton. During that time, it was just cheaper to have slaves and to rack up profit. And that's where like Africans really, really were known as the enslaved people. Like they were enslaved for life. And that's when, you know, white supremacy and whiteness and all that really ramped up. Not Chesapeake, Virginia specifically, but the South. Oftentimes, slaves, servants, Africans, Native Americans, and even poorer white people, or just some white people in general, will all rebel against certain, you know, head of families and things like that. They would band together and rebel. Like this example, Bacon's Rebellion. Of course, before race, everyone mingled together, and it was mostly based on your social status and not your race. But slavery really, really changed the idea of race and what it meant to be superior, if you can even say that crap. Anybody with darker skin was immediately inferior to those of whiter skin. I am a little appalled at how many little kids who can't remember or understand any of this are running through the museum. And I think it's important that, yes, we know our history. Yes, we share it with our young ones because they're going to be the ones to pass it on. But also, like, they're just running around and screaming and laughing and making jokes and doing TikTok dances. Disrespectful. That is ridiculous. I don't think I would ever bring my son into one of these spaces to act a fool. If he's gonna come here, he's gonna understand to respect it, and he's going to understand what it is he's reading, and he's gonna be here to learn, not here to play.
I said 5 in the morning, I wake up to fight for my yearnings. Fear in my mind is a warning. Pray to the one you're relying. I've been wandering all day. I tried to be fine, but I can't be. The noise in my mind wouldn't leave me. I tried to get by, but I'm burning.
Now, freedom meant different things to different people. during this time, they still had slaves. So how was that freedom? There were black people who were free, who decided that either they should go back home or stay. Those who were trying to leave and go back said that we don't belong here. We were brought here against our will. Those who were trying to stay had the argument that they built this place, they cultivated the land with their blood, sweat, and tears, their bodies. They have the right to stay. If anything, it's more of their home than anybody else's. There was also the expansion of territories towards the Northwest. Now, during this time, they didn't really know how more territories were going to be governed, and so they created this thing called the Northwest Ordinance. With this ordinance, it basically said that each of these new territories or states were going to be governed by one official, and whoever they choose as their legislation will have the same rights as the 13 colonies. This also decided that slavery will be prohibited within the Northwest territories, and they would also, quote unquote, treat Native Americans fairly. The Northwest Ordinance also led to the divide of states. So now there's free states and slave states. This also would eventually lead to the American Civil War, which we will talk about later. Now, the freedoms written in these documents do not really apply to black people, slaves, indentured servants, anybody that basically isn't white with property. They really only apply to white men with property. And those are also the same men who wrote these documents, white men with property. The U.S. Constitution in particular defended slavery. Slavery was expanded and used to boost the new nation's economy. African Americans were forced to work endlessly with no sleep and little nutrition to boost the economy by growing and picking cotton. The whip was used to enforce unrealistic quotas, and the violence created control. Factories streamlined labor to produce mass goods that were directly available to citizens. So to those citizens, it couldn't be that bad. Look at this pretty shirt. Even so, African Americans resisted through prayer, family, dance, food, and rebellion. From the slave ships to land, from large groups to individual rebellions, this happened more often than you may think. For example, the same guy that told white people that what they were doing was cool told Nat Turner to slay his enemy with their own weapons. But for some reason, it was suddenly wrong to rebel. Slave masters even created a disease called drapetomania that explains a slave's need to escape and fight back. Drapetomania was used as another excuse for white people to incite violence and hatred. They put bounties on runaway slaves' heads, and anyone, even other servants, can bring in those suffering from drapetomania. Even then, we fought, we ran, we craved to be free once again. Freedom would not be obtained without community. In the South, enslaved people weren't allowed to gather in groups of more than 5 people. So, of course, we did it anyway. Enslaved folk would organize places to meet and commune anywhere they could, in the woods and even in abandoned buildings. As we know, knowledge is power and community is strength. Getting married and going to school were not immediate rights given to enslaved African Americans. Slave owners used illiteracy as a manipulation tactic and to dehumanize their slaves. If enslaved people didn't know much about themselves, it was hard to conjure pride. It was easy to control an enslaved person who didn't know the truth of their situation. This tactic is still used today, so stay educated. The American Civil War was about slavery. The South wanted to keep it because of how dependent they were on slaves. The North profited from slavery, which made them hesitant to completely abolish it, but soon the war to limit slavery became the war to end it. As more stories like Private Gordon's were shared, white people were made to see the true horrors enslaved African Americans faced. Most enslaved men who fought in the American Civil War were from the South. African American men fought in the war on the side of the North to demand their emancipation. The North saw a ticket to win. Black men saw the war as a ticket to freedom. The emancipation
Hey, yo!
The Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment gave new substance to the new nation's promise of freedom, though we had a long way to go. As we should. Laws were passed that looked a lot like slavery, called the Black Codes. Violence and hatred continued to terrorize Black communities. Black folk weren't allowed to vote, hold office, or sit on juries. White people decided anything a Black person did could land them in prison. Prison was just another way to keep forced labor under the law. The Ku Klux Klan, or the KKK, took it upon themselves to enact brutal violence. Those same men served in the police force, on juries, in offices, and so on. Black codes evolved into Jim Crow laws that separated Black and white people in public spaces. Oftentimes, areas reserved for Black folk were poorly kept compared to their counterparts. Even in entertainment, they mocked us with stereotypes like blackface and monkey-like depictions, constantly letting us know that they did not see us as human. Sidebar: early POC civilizations had hygiene care. White civilizations did not. I laugh in the face of white supremacy. Ha ha ha. Anyways, Black people decided the only way we will be treated fairly is if we do things ourselves. Our communities focus on our needs in society. This led to organizations being created to further demand our rights as citizens, institutions to further education, and churches to worship in. These communities were the frameworks of African American culture. We contributed so much, including music, poetry, plays, books, and everything else in between.
Time will bring the real end about your brow. There'll be no remnants, no trace, no residual feelings within you. Then you won't remember me. Your face will be the reason I smile, but I will not see what I cannot have forever. I'll always love you. I hope you feel the same. Oh, baby, dirty, gave us so bad. Toy with my affliction, had to fill out my prescription. Cause you never be. I had to set you free. Away from you to see clearly the way that love can be when you are not with me. I had to live, I had to live, I had to leave, I had to live. Let love set you free to fly your pretty wings around. Wings, your pretty wings, your pretty wings, pretty wings. Let love set you free to fly your pretty wings around. Wings, your pretty wings, your pretty wings. I came wrong, you were right. Tried
Harlem were the
Seattle,
schools.
Los Angeles, and other cities across the country, artists drew inspiration for these new visions from their communities. Archibald Motley painted nightlife in Bronzeville, Chicago's South Side home to hundreds of thousands of Southern migrants. At his studio in Harlem, James Van Der Zee captured middle-class life and death, retouching negatives to reveal his subjects at their most beautiful. And Augusta Savage modeled clay into busts of family and friends. An ocean away from their urban homes, Africa, its people, art, and
The museum will be closing in 30 minutes. The museum will be closing in 30 minutes. The museum shop is now closed.
Because they have a museum in Greensboro about this.
They do.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
I think that nonviolence is possible, but I don't think it can ever go far enough.
So we got through only the first 2 floors, and we've been here for
An hour
and a half-ish. We need like a full weekend, a full week just to get through it all.
Facts.
Because there's just so much. But now we are making our way out because they close in like 20 something minutes. So we will have to come back another day. Women are always at the forefront. Okay, so a few thoughts. One of the things that I noticed was that the black people were dressed to the nines.
Yes.
Everyone was in such beautiful outfits, like very well constructed, swag head to toe.
Agreed.
These people?
Like,
And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
like, what the fuck are they wearing?
Stop it.
Like, seriously, what were they
Okay,
wearing?
but you were saying that a white couple said what?
Nah, white couple. It was like 2 white dudes, and this is like the first level, see-through, right? So we're just looking, reading, and then these 2 guys are next to me, and then one of them says, and I quote, "What am I supposed to feel here? Like, I don't know. Am I supposed
Speak
to feel?"
louder.
He's like, "What am I supposed to feel? Am I supposed to feel anything? Like, I don't get it." And I was like, ready to crash out.
Right.
Because I was like, why the fuck would you be here in
If
this
you weren't
place,
trying
if you
to
weren't trying to
understand.
learn and understand,
Exactly.
and off rip, you're just like, I don't get it. I'm like, why are you here then, white person? Get out if you don't want to learn. If you don't want to learn your actual history, American history, because African American history is American history.
Right. And some people, I know some people can't read it and feel the gravity, and they had to turn to shows like 12 Years a Slaves or Roots. But what was shown in there was like not easy. I felt like I got through it pretty quick because I already knew a bunch of this information. So for someone to come in and just blatantly be like, what's the point? It was so long ago.
Like,
it's just straight disrespectful.
Very
There's just
disrespectful.
many moments of like disrespect throughout the whole museum. And next time we come, I'm hoping to see less of that.
one side note, if people are gonna bring their kids,
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
Bring teenagers. Don't bring children that don't understand.
Because even the teenagers were in here were really reading and like learning and understanding. Anybody younger than that, they were just acting a fool. And their parents weren't stopping them, which was a
Right.
huge problem. It was bad.
It's low-key disrespectful. So.
High key disrespectful.
Yay!
Another thing Tyler would like to mention
is that there are a lot of diversity. I like seeing the different types of people that were actually there, because then that meant like different cultures trying to experience our culture, trying to get an understanding, and I like seeing that.
Yeah, and one part of the museum I realized was talking about how in the beginning, before like the race was a thing, like the indigenous folk and the black folk would often create communities together. And like, not solidarity, that's not the word, but that was also cool. So just like a reminder that America is very much a melting pot, but the administration keeps forgetting that fact. So it was nice seeing a lot of people in there learning.
We'll be back soon. Well, I won't say soon because it's like 40 minutes back. But yeah.
We'll be back. African American Museum.
Oh, okay. When's the last time you ate?
Ooh, this blue is so cute. Oh.
Run around, don't have nothing to indicate you. And she wearing all black. So it's smart.
Oh my god.